Alright everybody, it's our Klaus here, and really excited for this video. I'm going to try to keep it as short and sweet as possible because there's such a tremendous amount of information. I feel the more concise it is, the better odds it will have of making an actual impact. So with that, shouts to Andrew Lincecum for suggesting that I look into this Economist cover, because before that it was just not even on my radar. And at first glance I was really impressed that we just have this, very bold, simplistic cover here: darkness, unity, the abyss. And the research that I initially saw on it was connecting it, of course, to the 88 cover, where you've got the Phoenix with the 2018 medallion standing on top of the burning currency, this idea of a world currency, and then saying that the 2019 represents the financial collapse, the darkness, the chaos that will ensue. Now, I think there's something to that. Even if we're just looking at this block of information here, drawing in on it being the 33rd edition, the only other numbers that we have in this block are 50 and 500. Of course, those zeros drop with numerology, so we have 55 and 33, which added together gives us a nice 88, which is the same as the New Age and Trump and Get Out. And we'll get into all of that as we go, but I do think that's really compelling. And again, just to give it its fair due, if you rotate the cover, you get 6, 1, 0, and what appears to be a 7. Again, dropping that 0 out, we have the number 617, which when we look at its Jewish value, we can see it is the same as Economist spread, dark and dangerous, which is this cover we're looking at. And it also is the same as 10 Phoenix, which is absolutely what it says on his medallion there. So yes, I definitely think there is a strong likelihood of a financial collapse component in this coming darkness of 2019, but I feel like it goes well beyond that. What was really coming to my mind were these ideas of the subconscious, the unconscious mind, the collective conscious, and how that is further emphasized in death, this death and unity, and again into this void that unifies all. And again, more and more the collective mind that we are all programmed to operate through with things such as the internet. But more than all of that, as I'm looking at this cover, I start to think about how the moon plays a very large role in the occult, and how this is a direct homage to that in many, many ways, which is going to be my sole focal point here, is to show you those connections. And so again, looking at this black background with the white letters over it, that is symbolically representative of the moon. Again, over the darkness, we have the white circle in the sky casting light. And so we're going to look into the significance of the moon. But we're also going to look into this interesting individual, Alexandre de Rothschild, who is so interesting that he does not have his own Wikipedia page or information readily available to be researched on him. But he is now the 7th generation family member to head the Rothschild family business in its 200-year roundabout run. Now, why this individual is so interesting to me is very dynamic in its reasoning. So look at his birth date down here, December 3rd, which if we reduce that down, 1 and 2 is 3, gives us that nice 33 again, matching the 33rd edition that this Economist cover is. So not only do we have that piece, but we also have these really interesting idea of the full, or the first black, first black moon of the year to take place January 5th, 6th of 2019. If we're looking at an actual moon calendar, it has it on the 6th, which is the date that I will be using as we move forward. But again, in considering this individual, do notice that the coding for his name, Alexandre de Rothschild, does give us coding for the number of the beast. And it does also show us light up the darkness, and its values are also the same as the Economist cover. Again, what we're talking about here, and having that just void on the cover. So with this being the spirit of darkness and the next great leap name affiliation here, I feel like there is a lot to be said in tying this closer. But look at his other coding as well: New World Disaster, Global Economic Collapse, Goal of the Illuminati. These represents the FEMA and this idea of one consciousness. But so, before we really start expanding on all of that, the reason I mention his coding for the number of the beast is this black moon is going to take place in 15 degrees Capricorn. So of course the 15th tarot card is the devil card, and Capricorn has that same symbolism tied to it. And of course him being the 7th generation to head this is a very big deal when we connect everything together, because here you have Liber Oz, and inside the O, we have the 7-pointed mark of the beast designed by Aleister Crowley, complete with the 666 inside of it. Now, the 7 points and him being the 7th generation is one thing, and the Oz bit here is interesting when we consider that Ozzy Osbourne was also born on December 3rd. And so we have that 33 playing in there as well. Now, this is also referred to as Book 77, Liber 77, and we will come back to it a bit later on here. And again, with that significant, just thinking about that number 7 to get it out of the way here, right? It does permeate our lives in a lot of ways. First of all, the 7 continents on the globe that we're led to, right, advocate and accept. We also have the basic understanding of the 7 chakras. You have the 7 colors of the rainbow. I believe there's a 7 involved with music. I don't want to misquote it off the top of my head, but another interesting piece there. And again, with that rainbow, in ancient times used to show reverence for Moloch. And again, all of the importance that we can find in that. But so in thinking about that and all those 33s, especially that we have in connection with the Rothschild kid, again, hailed here to have 15 years of experience, and really just, pushing that over as much as they can. But what I want you to get from this 33 and his connections to this idea of Baphomet, the number of the beast, and again, a lot of folks in the mainstream would put this forward as their representation of that. And do note here Crowley's 33rd chapter from the Book of Lies entitled Baphomet. And again, all the bits that you can read on this. But when you look at the origins of the name, I just always find it fascinating, because the meanings translate to things such as the Father of Understanding, the key to the house of God, baptism of wisdom, and so on. And so it's very interesting to me that there's that inversion of the true meaning of it, and again, that misdirected, misguided energy. It's the same thing as the moon, when we really start to look into that, which is something that, let's start to break that down a little more. So look at the Economist, just the letters, because they're one of the few things that we actually have on this cover here. And there's a number of interesting anagrams for them, but I feel the most interesting one is moon aesthetic. And when we look at the word aesthetic as a noun, you see here is a set of principles underlying and guiding the work of a particular artist or artistic movement. And so when I'm positing that the Economist is really just a guideline for the work of the moon, I would be saying that the elites who are in control of this publication, and arguably the vast majority of the world that we all live in and experience, this is what guides it, are these principles, the reverence for the moon that is paid. Now, in making this point, let's go back to this cover again. And I'm going to expand again as we go here. But look, $13.95 is what they charge. So if we add 13 and 95, we get the number 108. Now, in Gematria, that is the same value as full moon, worship, dark energy, and the number 55. And so again, taking all of that aside, and you look over here, in this last line, we have our 2 5s, and we're talking about space travel after visiting, quote unquote, the moon. And again, all of the energy that goes into that argument still is phenomenal. But again, those 2 5s, the moon worship, it's very powerful. If we drop the 0 out from that 108, it gives us 18, which is the moon card. And so we can go over here. We can visit from Crowley's Book of Thoth what he has to say about this particular card and its connections to the subconscious mind. But what's interesting is how he's describing here. He says, this is the threshold of life. This is the threshold of death. All is doubtful. All is mysterious. All is intoxicating. Not the benign solar intoxication of Dionysus, but the dreadful madness of pernicious drugs. This is a drunkenness of sense, after the mind has been abolished by the venom of the moon. This is that which is written of Abraham in the book of the beginning, and horror of great darkness came upon him. And again, expands more on these ideas throughout, where you have Anubis here, the guards, the madness that comes in with the quest. And really, it's important to then understand the significance of the Egyptian god Thoth, as some would refer to him as. But again, god of writing, magic, wisdom, and the moon, and of course the basis for Crowley's whole tarot system. You can see here he is one of the most important gods of ancient Egypt, alternately said to be self-created or born of the seed of Horus from the forehead of Set. As the son of these two deities who represented order and chaos respectively, he was also the god of equilibrium and balance, and associated closely with the principle of Ma'at, divine balance, and the goddess Ma'at who personified this principle and sometimes appeared as his wife. So I'm going to leave you all of these articles as usual so you can look through them, and they're always fascinating. Again, you can see here this deity is credited with creating law, magic, philosophy, religion, science, and writing. And so really his influence is almost bar none as far as what he's responsible for facilitating here in the physical world. But so you can also see here, scrolled through it already, this bit about him and his role, guiding those into the afterlife, assisting with the judging of the souls. And again, more for you to delve into because it's infinitely fascinating. And again, it makes tremendous sense to me that a publication such as The Economist would put so much stock into the moon, as there is a tremendous amount of controversy surrounding the moon. If we take a look at this clip here from Ike.
Scientists will tell you, the truth is, and honest scientists will tell you, they have no bloody clue where the moon come from, and it shouldn't, by physics, be there. This guy, Isaac Asimov, a Russian professor of biochemistry, did a lot of writing.
So I don't want to play too much of that, but absolutely a talk worth looking into. And again, just the bits that Ike goes on to expand on are how it's essentially used as a vessel to help mind control the population. And I'm going to leave you this wonderful website, Veil of Reality, discussing the matrix control system of the moon as well as its esoteric significance. And again, I think this is a phenomenally interesting article, and if you're able to read it with an open mind, it really does make some compelling points. And again, getting into this idea that special ceremonies from ancient times were not to celebrate the moon, but to actually protect themselves from the dark influence of it. And so all of this connects into what we're talking about with this idea of the black moon and it coming in on the 6th of 2019, all right? Because we're going to start connecting a lot of these different numbers and dates, but I want you to see here how important this moon is to the occult, again, putting it on par with the sun itself and likening it to the subconscious. This big idea that is talked about with this moon is the whole dark side idea of the moon, and how even when there is a full moon and it's illuminated, there's that duality that is emphasized by the other half being completely shrouded in darkness. And again, that gets to the dualistic tones that are emphasized throughout, right? All of this occult symbolism that we're familiar with. And so when we get back here, you can also read a little further about how the black moon has a special force which facilitates and conveys darkness, seen as a special time used in dark ceremonies and rituals, and is an important event personally for those demons and aspirants of darkness who have physical bodies. And one of the things he gets into over in this article is how people inadvertently end up doing the bidding of dark forces, dark entities while practicing during these new moons because, again, they are not capable of fully handling the energy that is coming their way. So again, all of that is just supremely fascinating to me. And again, looking at moon aesthetic, I do just want you to see that another way that it is defined as an adjective is relating to involving or concerned with pure emotion and sensation as opposed to pure intellectuality. And, right, that is where we live, in a world of pure emotion and sensationalism and instant gratification and pseudo-intellectuality and all sorts of other just nonsense that make us ripe for the picking. So let's jump back here now, though. Let's look at some more of these numbers. So again, thinking about de Rothschild, Alexandre coming in on May 17th, 2018, and our black moon coming out in January 6th of 2019. The time between those two dates is 33 weeks and 3 days, or 234 days. So both of those numbers major. Both of them, when inverted and added together, give us that nice 666. So another thing to think about, the Rothschild coming into place May 17th, and the pre-order date for the Economist, right? 198 days. You divide that number by 6, and you get the number 33. I think that is absolutely fascinating. And again, for that 198, you can see the coding here connecting to President Trump, the second 9/11, his ideas of history repeating itself. And so, even speaking of that, thinking back to this 55 up here in full moons, the day after Thanksgiving this year will be the full moon, 11/23. Which, mind you, if we broke down, we would add the 2 and the 3 for 5, 11 times 5, and 55. But in any case, Thanksgiving, the day before, 11/22, is the 55-year anniversary of the JFK assassination. And so, of course, 11 and 22 is 33. But again, you just see how all of these numbers are very, very important to keep in mind and see the significance of, as, again, the consistency in looking at all of this is really quite staggering. So again, if we're looking through all of this different coding here, you see Alexandre de Rothschild, 21-letter name. It's the universe. And so again, if we're looking at the Economist coding itself, it does come up with the universe as well as the final crusade, global control, Liber 77, as we've already talked about, and geriatric shit on its own. Again, this is from Get Out. whole video on it, absolutely worth looking into. So that's really what need be said about all of that. All right, you can look through all of this and see all of the very just consistent coding. And then you can look further here. You can see in the Economist, again, references to myself as well. Financial crisis, FEMA camps come up. Leonardo da Vinci, who is mentioned in this block here, and it is in the same sentence as the discussion of the moon and the 55. So again, very important presence with that. But again, we can break this down different ways, right? Nothing, which is on the cover arguably. We look at the coding for that, and we have reference to truth in Liber Oz, right? 68, just like the Economist. O and Z reduced down to 68. And so all of that just comes back, right? The sun, Path of Resh, 2019, right? 19th card is the sun card. You can see how it all stacks up. Architect, key of all, this idea of deep sleep, again, connecting with darkness very well. But so let's look at this last bit that I've got for you here. And it's the world in, which is the other set of words that we are given on this cover. And so if we play with those and switch the letters around, the world in becomes Lord, whiten thine world. And it also becomes a reference to High World 10, which again, saying hello to this new world that they're talking about. So a lot to be considered there as well. But when we're looking at the world in its geometric values, we have White Rabbit and the secret revealed. Now notice as well, we have reference to unity found in death. 2 references to the Mandela effect. Up top it says NWO, and below simply the Mandela effect. But that's very important in just thinking about the way all of this continues to play out. Where, right, the Mandela effect is just a sort of trickle thing where they test out a corroding history. I mean, it's something that's always been at play, but the mainstream nature of it, and, you know, there's the smallest things, and, you know, oh, it doesn't matter about the Bernsteins, or it doesn't matter about this or that. And then you lead it into something like Trump, who I believe it was back at the Helsinki, I know the irony of saying I believe there, but the Helsinki summit where he was talking with Putin, and tried to regale a completely different side of what happened, his view of the events, and say, no, you remembered wrong. And again, really playing off of that. And there's a lot more we could go into with them fragmenting our reality with frequencies and the proven ability they have to do that, causing people to remember things differently. I mean, there's a lot to be said there, and it's all very fascinating. Reeling back in here, though, you also have 156 spelled out. So it's an incredibly important number because it's the number of Our Lady Babylon. And you can see on the right side of your screen, it does share coding with 666, 33, as above, so below. Biblical prophecy and Planet Trump, right? Just to keep us in line with all of the coding that we're seeing off of these covers. So all of that together is very fascinating. And again, if you did not see my Sopranos video talking about this Battle of Midway stuff, it is absolutely worth your time to do so, because it adds much more than I'll go into here. In this very last bit, 2019, how you're most likely to say the world in 2019. You do have reference to shadow conspiracy. You also have reference to America's destroyed, prophecy fulfilled. You also see November 2018 in Roman numerals and POTUS DJ Trump next to unconscious mind. Again, getting back to the darkness, and again, it goes with the shadow conspiracy as well of this cover, and arguably its affiliation with moon symbolism. So again, it's most certainly going to be a wild year. We'll see what goes on. I'll leave this for those of you still with me here, and you can look into this further and see even more just fascinating connections. But I definitely think there's something to be said about the role of the moon, this Alexandre character. It's all very interesting to me. So, as always, I certainly appreciate y'all taking the time to watch this. I'll see if I can't put together a couple more things before the end of the year here, just to make a couple more things clear. But as always, please be well.